We got a major scandal in the NBA today. Something like that would never happen in the NFL, right? Good morning. Welcome to the 49ers Playbook. That's former Raiders offensive coordinator Tom Walsh. I'm Grant Cohn. I'm going to ask Tom today how one of these NBA scandals could happen in the NFL. We're going to get to that, and we're going to talk about how we always do, how the Niners should approach the Texans on offense and defense, and we'll have visual aids as well with pass reps. First, I want to ask Tom about big picture. Where did you watched the whole league? The Niners just beat the Falcons. We thought the Falcons would win this game. It was a very impressive win. Now they're 5-2, the 49ers. Where do you think they stand in the NFC? Are they one of the 5 best teams, even without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner?
Grant, I think they are right on the cusp of being one of the top 5. They're maybe in the top 6, definitely in the top 7. I think they could ascend even higher up into the rankings if some of the injured players come back and begin to produce and add a little bit more maturity and experience to their offense and defense. And, they can compete. I tell you, the one thing that impressed me the most about this past weekend is like I'm watching the ball game and I'm thinking, oh my God, so the light bulb finally went on in the attic of Kyle Shanahan's hat. He, instead of plays, he realized his players. And so he took some of his most favorite things that he's been doing in the past, put them on the shelf because they have not been working, especially in the run game, changed his whole mindset about how they were going to attack, going more downhill between the tackles, more aggressive, not running laterally and horizontally with sprint spots on the outside zone and the stretch place and all that. And if Kyle continues along this vein offensively, even though they're struggling in a lot of regards about offensive statistics, they've got a chance to be very competitive. And you look at the Lions, you look at the Eagles, you look at the Packers, you look at the Rams. Even the Buccaneers losing the other night to Detroit. It's a toss-up. There's no dynasty, that is going to run away with the NFC title this year. And so if he can stay in that mindset, and Salah's doing a masterful job on defense, I think the Niners have a chance to make it deeper into the playoffs than most people expected at the beginning of the year. Plus, the schedule is in their favor because it was the weakest schedule in the league in the first place. So if they can get people back healthy and Kyle can stay within the mindset of it's the players, not the plays, Kyle. Think about your players and how to best utilize your players and then design concepts around what they can do best rather than your favorite plays that you've had in your mind for the last 22 years and just go that way. They've got a chance to be they could win 12 ball games this year.
I think early on in the season when they were winning games, it was hard to look at them as real contenders because of the running game. It's like you're not going to drop back and pass 45 times a game all season and win 12 games or win playoff games. You got to figure out the running game. You got to figure out an identity on the ground that fits your personnel. And like you said, outside zone doesn't seem to fit this personnel that well. And I want to ask you why. Is it all Christian? Does he not quite have the burst to get to the sprint spots? Is it also, the wide receivers aren't blocking as well as they did in the past? I mean, Jawan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk used to be some of the best. It seems like is it the running? Is it the blocking? What do you think?
There's a combination, but number one in my mind is the one aspect that kills these zone schemes, which everybody's been running, is penetration. So if I can get any penetration, especially at the offensive tackle positions from a defensive perspective, now that ruins the whole concept of the stretch scheme because now when that penetration comes up the field, it forces the back into a one-way cut, which is back into the heart of the defense. Because I no longer can get outside and on the edge because my tackle has not been able to button run and to be able to negate the penetration from the 5 technique or 7 technique at defensive end. And I think that's a key factor. Remember now, they used to run the power runs to the left and the outside zone to the right, even going back to the days of the former Notre Dame tackle who's now at Denver. And that's always been their bread and butter. Well, that's no longer there because defenses have figured out, okay, penetration kills zone schemes. It's the biggest negative that can happen. And if you're blocking laterally and trying to reach and button run and button cut and button turn, and your tackle can't get it done, you're not going to secure the edge, and you're not going to have a chance for the back to have more than just a one-way cut.
Is this scheme better for Christian McCaffrey at this stage in his career to just run him between the tackles and to try to get him outside?
It's much better. Now, we can still run the crack tag schemes, especially to my left with Trent Williams, because he is unique at being able to pull and run. It reminds me of the old days at the Raiders. We would switch sometimes Upshaw and Shell and put Upshaw at tackle when we were running the crack tag because Gene could run extremely well. He was like a 4.6 guy coming out of Texas A&I playing offensive guard. But anyway, I've got that play to the left. I can run the inside zone with the design cutback schemes. I can run the power between the tackles, the Joker O concept, double down, pull the off guard, and walk around into the opposite A gap. Or I can go straight downhill with the weak side leads and allow McCaffrey to have a head of steam coming in there and to make his cut up into the line of scrimmage and press the line of scrimmage and hold the defense in place. And then he's really good at making a jump cut or a skip cut and then getting back on track and running with his pads down enough with enough force that he's going to gain yardage. So I like that run. So happy to see Kyle finally say, Nirvana, the light bulb went on. This is what we got to do. And they were very successful. And he stayed with it. That was the other key. Now, contrary, I look at the third down statistics. They are like second, I think, in the NFL with like a 47 or 48% conversion rate, which is phenomenal. You're giving your offense another three downs. Conversely, they have the same percentage in the red zone, which is 25th in the league. Okay, 47% in the red zone, 25th in the NFL. He's only cranking out 20.3 or 20.4 points per game. Well, if you're not successful in the red zone, you're kicking a lot of field goals. So you're trading threes for sevens. And, it's hard to put the pressure on the defense to have such a stalwart effort each week when your offense is not even scoring 3 touchdowns. How many teams go to the Super Bowl averaging 20 points a game?
Why do you think the Niners are so good on third down and so ineffective in the red zone? Is this just a Kyle Shanahan thing? Is he going to have a moment of nirvana and figure it out in the red zone, or is this a personnel thing?
Well, this way. If you can run the ball well on first or second down, and they're getting a little bit better at that, I'm into a third down and more of a higher percentage conversion. If I can keep it between 3rd and 4 to 6, 3rd and 1 to 2, I've got a chance. If I go to 3rd and 7 to 9, 3rd and 10 and plus, my percentages just go in the toilet. So the run game helps me on third down because I can keep it where I can run a shallow cross, I can run a stick route, I can run a pressure route, I can throw an option route to McCaffrey at 5 yards, and he's going to gain the yardage necessary for the first down. 3rd and 10, it's hard to throw the option route at 5 or 6 yards and then say, hey, catch the ball and run for 4 more yards to get me the first down. Conversely, when you get into the red zone, you need to have the run game. And I think if we can get to that point this coming Sunday, where Kyle will use the same type of running game that he featured this past week against the Falcons, you're going to see more effectiveness in the run zone, red zone with that kind of a run game.
If I remember correctly, the Niners had early in Kyle's tenure, 2017, 2018, they could move the ball up and down the field with whoever their running backs and quarterbacks were, but they struggled in the red zone. And Kyle's solution for that in year 3 really was Deebo Samuel, not necessarily as a receiver, but as a guy on an end around or a screen or just on a handoff. Guy scored a lot of touchdowns for the Niners the last 5-6 years in the red zone. And now it seems like if it's not Christian and they don't really have that go-to guy, maybe it'll be George Kittle. I don't know. Who would you go to with the current? How would you do it?
Well, okay, granted, they don't have that jet sweep guy anymore. Okay, there's nobody on that roster, including Ricky Pearsall, whenever he's healthy, that can be the Deebo Samuels kind of guy. Deebo was a punishing runner as a wide receiver on the jet sweeps. And also on the screen game, they threw a lot of those 0-yard passes, negative air yards almost concept, and Deebo turns it into an 18, 19-yard game. He had unique skills in that regard. Well, they don't have that player anymore. So I have to go back. The other thing I think that you need to understand down in the red zone is that they can run some play action passes rather than just dropping back all the time. That would help them because that would eliminate some linebackers and some safeties in coverage who are biting on the run fake. That would clear up some of the traffic that they have into where Mac could throw the ball with fewer defenders floating around in space. And so I would look for that. I go back to some of the fire action passes that used to be run where you have a lock slide and bringing everyone down, put the fullback or the H-back out in the flat hot. You got a wide receiver running a choice route, a spot route. You got a tight end running the corner route. So you now have a three-man pattern to a side where you can bring the ball out quickly. If the shoot route, the fast flat opens up now, bam, put the ball on them. And I think that helps draw the defense in and allows you to outflank them that way. When you drop back, it's too obvious to everybody. You got a condensed field. You don't have a Canadian end zone, so everything happens more quickly. So you've got to find other ways to outflank the defense and to beat them with a show, run, and throw the ball.
I got a suggestion. It's real simple. Use Jake Tunges.
It's
Jake
true.
Tunges, I think, is a weapon in the red zone. When they throw him the ball, he often scores a touchdown. Kittle comes back and you forget about him entirely. No, throw to Jake Tunges in the red zone.
I go back to some of the patterns to the tight end over the years, the stick and the stick nod concepts and those kind of things, where when you're looking at the way the defenses are playing, the other day, Mac Jones did a masterful job of looking off the Mike linebacker. Atlanta was playing a Tampa 2 scheme. And I think he ended up completing the pass for 17, 18 yards to Christian McCaffrey. And Mac looked off to the right to the tight end who was hooking up in the alley over there. The Mike linebacker moved a bit, and Mac was able to pump it into Christian. Well, you can take advantage of the Tampa 2 scheme because you still have creases in there. And the play action package, is my number one thing. And the tight end can get free on play action pass more easily than anybody else on the field.
Yeah, and if you're, defending the Niners, Tunges is the last guy you're thinking about on any play. Anyway, let's switch gears. It's looking like it could be another Mac Jones week. We've seen a lot of Mac Jones with the 49ers. How would you describe the differences, the similarities between Mac Jones and Brock Purdy?
Oh, my goodness. The biggest difference for me is I think that Mac processes things a little bit more quickly than Brock. I think because of Mac's so-called limited mobility, I think also he has a tendency that he's not going to bypass the first open receiver he sees and wait for the next guy at the second level. So he'll bring the ball out more quickly. That helps the protection package. That saves the hits, and that puts the ball in the hands of the open receiver for the catch and now the run after the catch, as opposed to a contested throw by holding the ball longer, which allows the defense to converge and identify coverage and the closed cushion on the receiver. And I think that's the main difference. The second thing is the Niners really, if you look at the stats, they are 19th or 20th in the league in what they nowadays call explosive plays, which are 10-yard or more runs or 20 or more yards passing. And the deep ball is absent in the Niners. Where the deep crossing routes, or what we call the spear routes, the deep opposite routes, whether it's the X receiver running it back to the strong side or the tight end running it from the strong side to the weak side with the X on the clear out on the post route, those 20 to 28-yard chunk passes are not in the Niner game anymore. Of course, without Kittle, that's one of George's best routes, the deep crossing, the spear route. But this kid Tonjes has got the speed, he's got the legs, he's got the catch radius, he can make those plays. But I think now Kyle needs to understand those type of passes will work much better off of play action, especially if I got McCaffrey coming up inside, I got the backer sucking up, and I can get the tight end back in over the top, and then the Mike linebacker, in this case, what is Al Shazier, for the Texans, if he's playing, if he hasn't been suspended, can wheel and run and try to find it, but he's got to honor McCaffrey coming up on the run fake first, right at him, right up the gut, suck those backers up, and then run the tight end over the top on the 22 to 28-yard deep spear route.
Yeah, we've been seeing Kyle Shanahan call a lot of like under center straight drop back passes. I think he did that on the first play against the Falcons. It was a sack. Don't know where the play action is gone, but it seems like he's gotten away from it a little bit.
He needs to understand that, like, these guys, the Texans have two really good outside edge rushers. Let's be honest. Those two guys, Hunter and Anderson Jr., I think they both have 4 sacks each in the first 6 ball games. That's going to be a struggle for McKivitz. Let's be honest. It's not like you're looking at the mirror of Trenton Williams pass blocking on the right side. That ball is dropped precipitously when you look at the protection schemes and the protection package, right side, left side of the Niners offensive line. So the play action pass is the best way to help them out. Because when I also play action fake, I've got the back to whom I fake the ball who can now police the pocket before he checks out and leaks out on a flare control. Whereas on drop back and I'm running scat protection, I got 5 out in the pattern, I've got no help from a tackle. Now, the other thing I can do this week, and we'll talk about George Kittle for a second, because he'll probably start, I presume. He's had the hamstring issue. So the number one thing I would want to do as a head coach and play caller, I'm not going to run him down the field on deep patterns, okay? I want to use some caution about how I utilize him. I need him for the run game. I need him to chip and protect in the passing game, especially on McKivitz's side. I've got to line him up on the right side of the formation to put a guy in the face of that edge rusher on the strong side next to McKivitz, who has responsibility. I can chip him. I can delay release them. I can run tight end screens. I can run the tight end on a trickle route, on a squat route off of play action. I can have him on a 4 count or 3 count delay and just leak out late. And when the coverage drops, I can just drop the ball off to him and let him run for another 5 or 6 yards. I can use him to control the down and distance situation and to keep third downs manageable just by using Kittle as an underneath guy. I'm not going to stretch his leg. I'm not going to stress him by running them on deep routes. And that'll help increase the ability of Matt to be able to get the ball out without the sacks, without the hits. I can use him basically like a check down receiver as a tight end. And that'll help immensely, not only in keeping Mac upright, saving George's legs for the run game and for the chips on the pass pro and everything, then also put my quarterback and offense in favorable third down situations where I'm not throwing 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, get the ball out quickly, eliminate the holding penalties and pass protection. By the longer I hold the ball at quarterback with deeper drops and deeper pass patterns, the longer my line has to protect, and the chances are somebody's going to get beat. That rookie left guard's going to get called for a holding call. I got a backup playing at center. I got McKivitz on the right. I'm holding my breath when I drop back and throw the ball because of the fear of the penalty situation where my offensive linemen are overmatched by some quality edge players.
Come on. Let's take a look at what the 49ers should do with George Kittle. It seems like last week, they could beat the Falcons without giving the ball to George Kittle at all. They just used him as a blocker. They opened up the run game that way, and it was enough because Michael Penix Jr. isn't particularly good. But C.J. Stroud really is a good thrower, and if the Niners don't have a pass rush, they could they might need a little bit more offense in this game. So let's take a look at some pass reps. This is the Playbook breakdown segment of the show powered by Pass Reps, where we make you smarter about football every week. You can get pass reps yourself and actually practice calling plays before Sunday for only $1.99 a month. Just go to passreps.com or click the link below. Okay, Tom, let's take a look at this play here. What is it?
Well, you got up the stick concept, and the great thing about this is I can go to empty sets. Kyle likes to spread the field and walk everybody out, put out McCaffrey outside, the X on the weak side or in the slot, or put him out beyond the Z on the strong side. And then I spread out the entire defense, and so I can take the tight end and just run a little stick route at 5 to 6 yards. It's like a get open route. It's a simple situation where I'm going to play, catch with the tight end here and have maybe a 5 to 6 yard throw. If it's zone, turn away from the defender, sit down. If it's man to man, break away and stay on the move. So I can take if I'm under center, it's a 3-step drop, bam, the ball's coming out. If I'm in the gun, it's a catch and throw situation. So the quarterback doesn't have to hold the ball forever. And I've got a 3-man progression to the side of where Kittle is, where I can throw the stick route. I've got a man alert. I got a 9 route on the outside. If they were to walk up and play bump and run on the edge with Lassiter or one of the corners, I've got a shot vertical if I like my matchup. And unfortunately for the Niners, they don't have great vertical matchups in this ball game. They're, Jennings is not going to make me worry as a corner thinking that he's going to run by me vertically on a go route. Now, he may be able to use a double move once in a while, but, he's basically going to run the hook and he's going to run the in route. Well, if I'm running the stick combination, I can put the back out in the flat or the H out in the flat on the shoot route, and I got the tight end there. And if it's there, I'm going to take it right now. Ball's out of my hand, it's gone. Move the sticks, let's go to the next play. And so the great thing about it is this is a great 1st and 10 or 2nd and long situation if they're going to go to a cover 2 shell. A lot of defenses now in 2nd and 7 to 10, they're playing what they call a 2 green concept, cover 2 green, where they're playing the depth of the sticks, thinking that the ball's going to come out. That's why you see everybody on the 2nd down in the NFL. They're running the ball, they're running screens, they're running draws, and the screens are not really very effective because the whole world, they got fans in the stand who can call the play. But the stick concept's a great way, Grant, to get into a more manageable next down situation.
Yeah, anytime you're having trouble getting the ball to a tight end, this is a great play. Remember, like 13 years ago when Vernon Davis had 0 catches against the Seahawks, and you were like, hey, Grant, why don't you ask Jim Harbaugh how come he didn't call Y-stick or Y-stick looky for Vernon Davis in that game? And Harbaugh looked at me like I was an alien. He was like, how do you know this stuff? He was like, well, I did call the stick, but I didn't call the looky, but at least we're speaking the same language. And ever since that moment, Harbaugh liked me. Thank you, Tom.
I tell you, Jim needs some help in Los Angeles. I think they're playing the Vikings tonight, but they're so beat up down there, my goodness. And I hope to God they're not wearing those butt ugly yellow uniforms like they did last week. Oh my God. They look like ducks running around on the field.
Do we have any other plays you'd like to look at to get the ball to George Kittle?
Well, I'd like to get the ball to Tonjes. On that Y spear route we talked about earlier, that deep crossing route, that's a Kittle favorite, right there. And then the other thing, if Jennings is playing flanker, he's on the square end behind it. So if the linebackers are chasing Tonjes on that deep Y spear route, that opens up a nice hole to throw the end behind it. So I've got a horizontal 1-2 progression right there before I chuck the ball down to the shallow cross. And so I would take Tonjes in there, let him run up there 12 to 14 yards, and then head for across the far numbers, aiming between 22 to 27 yards, and have Matt put the ball in there. Make sure that in a cover 2 shell now, don't be thinking that, because I'm going to see the backside corner sink to take that away. But if it's not a cover 2, it's a single safety high, and he crosses the free safety space and he's free, ball goes to him. If the safety turns and runs, with Tonjes on the spear route, what we call the 6 spear, the deep crosser, I've got Jennings running the in route right behind it, because the deep crosser should take the Mike backer as well as the free safety in a single high scheme. that opens up the square in behind it at 15 to 17 yards to Jennings. So either way, I've got a good 1-2 read right there before I chuck down to number 3, which is the shallow cross.
He's going to be wide open.
Yeah, and then the great thing about it is Kyle can dress it up with the trading the tight end, running the short motion with the Z, doing all kinds of his normal little gimmicks and gadgets to dress it up. We took a play like that. I remember years ago, we threw it 4 times during the ball game. After the game, I got the opposing defensive coordinator pulls me aside. He goes, you threw that pattern 4 times in the game. And he said, you completed all 4 of them. He says, you do it once a quarter. But he says, we did not figure out what you were doing until the 4th quarter after you completed the first 3 of them. And then you still completed the one in the 4th quarter. So for 4 for 4. And he says, we did not know, could not digest it with the players until the 4th quarter, what you were doing. And you completed all 4 of them. And each of those throws get you on the end, 15 to 17 yards, on the spear, 22 to 27 yards. You throw it 4 times, you complete 4 of them. You got over 100 yards passing just on 4 plays.
What I like about this play in particular is that you could have Kittle in the slot running that crossing route, the drag route. You could have McCaffrey running that little Texas route. And that's where the defense is going to be looking, and you can sneak Tonjes behind him. I like that.
I see there's so many opportunities, Grant. It's just the problem, too many times coaches get involved in how many plays can I design. I laugh at these huge placards of plays. They've got 108, 120 plays on these sheets, and you only run 64, 65 plays a game, and they got twice that many. And with today's practice regimen and limitation on hours on the field and hours meeting, I don't see how the players can rep them enough to be able to execute them on Sunday.
Well, guys, you just saw the breakdown. Now go test your own football IQ at Pass Reps Updates weekly for $1.99 a month. That's nothing. The link's below. Don't just watch the game. Call it at passreps.com. All right, let's look at the other side of the ball. The Niners defense against the Texans offense. This offense in Houston seems truly awful. D'Amico's on his 2nd offensive coordinator. I don't know if he'll get to go to the 3rd one. But CJ Stroud seems pretty good when he has time to throw, which, Bryce Huff is not going to play. Nick Bosa's not going to play. What do you think?
I actually felt sorry for CJ Stroud on Monday night. I'm looking at him. I'm watching him. He's hesitant. He looks like he's disconnected. He's got his 2nd coordinator in 2 years. The other thing about it is I look at the weapons that he has around him. Besides new language, new terminology and everything, he doesn't have Joe Mixon, who has not played a snap at running back all year. Christian Kirk is out with a hamstring. He's not going to play again. Nico Collins, I think, got a concussion Monday night. He has yet to be cleared at wide receiver. The only kid he's got any hope is he's got the tight end who's had, I think, 30 catches so far in the 6 ball games. Schultz, is that his name? Mm-hmm. That's his only reliable, dependable weapon, and he's only catching the ball for 9-10 yards average. And then the run game, I think CJ was the leading rusher last Monday night with 25 yards for the game. And, you've got, I don't know. The run game is just anemic. And, they're averaging maybe 270-something yards a game, and that's just not enough offense. And a lot of it, you've been sacked 15 times. You're holding the ball. You're unsure where to go. There's not a lot of continuity, and I think that's the big problem right now.
So even without Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, possibly Diamador Lenore, you're looking at this as advantage 49ers?
Definitely. My whole thing this week is that if I'm Salah, I don't need to be as aggressive with my 5- and 6-man pressures as I was the other day. Right now, Houston does not have the weapons offensively to beat me, but I want to make sure I don't beat myself by putting a corner in a disadvantage where a double move beats him, or he gets beat on a bump and run coverage and Stroud throws up a balloon and all of a sudden it's caught down the field for a big play. I want to make them have to earn it because they have not shown the ability to earn, matriculate the length of the field to get in the end zone. And so, the Niners are going to struggle a little bit offensively, but I think they can work around it with the run game being where it is, as long as they can pass protect. And that puts the pressure on Houston's offense to have to throw the ball more. And they got that rookie left tackle from Minnesota playing, and he's kind of the weak link in that offensive line. They've had to reshuffle everybody around. And so that's another reason why Houston's struggling on offense. They got that rookie left tackle, and he's having a little bit of a time with protection as well. So, that makes it tough for a CJ Stroud.
Okay, who do you think's going to win?
Oh, the Niners should win this one. I tell you what, if they lose this one, as depleted as Houston is, despite the injury bugs the Niners have had, the Niners have more than enough weapons to win this ball game as long as they don't muck it up themselves. So before you think about beating the opponent, don't defeat yourself. No fips, fumbles, interceptions, penalties, and sacks. I've got the Niners are like, I think, fifth in the NFL with the most turnovers in the league. That's another thing. They've got like 11 or 12 turnovers in so far this season, and I think it puts them like at the fifth highest in the league with the most turnovers. So they've got to be able to, take care of the ball, eliminate the holding penalty. The bad thing about it, the holding penalties is all of a sudden you go from 2nd and 2, you go back to drop back, and you want to take a shot pass or whatever. The next thing you know, it's now 2nd and 12. And then you're 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, because you run the ball on 2nd and 12 or throw a screen pass most of the time in the NFL today. Unfortunately, everyone in the league knows it's coming, and that's why you see so many screen passes where the quarterback has to ground the ball and just throw it at the feet of the running back, because a linebacker comes over and hugs up on the screen back, and then that's another loss down. So now it's 3rd and 12.
The Texans' offense is in shambles. Their defense is ranked number 1 in the league. Do you expect this to be a low-scoring game?
I do, because I think the Niners are going to have 9, 10, and 12 play drives to score. Okay, our whole theory and my philosophy was, offensively, I was a greedy guy. I'm one and done. I'm going to find as many ways possible as I can take shots and get big plays off of fire passes, aggressive play action passes. I'll run 2-man patterns with great speed that we had at wide receivers, deep crossing routes, like an 8 flag and a 6 spear. And now the free safety's in a bind, and we're going to outrun any corner going across the field. We're going transcontinental. We're going left to right, right to left. And the quarterback's got to throw the ball down the field. Don't overthrow, don't underthrow it. Just put it out there. I used to kid Timmy Brown and Cliff Branch and James Jett and Alexander Wright and the great speed guys. We had Willie Galt. I'd say, you know what? I dare the quarterback to overthrow you. If they overthrow you, you're not running fast enough. And that was it. But the Niners don't have that guy. So now all of a sudden, their offense becomes more of a phone booth. I've condensed their offense because of their lack of the speed to take the top off of the defense. So that makes it more of a struggle offensively. As a coordinator and a play caller, you're playing small ball.
So we're talking another Eddie Pinheiro game.
I hate to say it, the guy's as good as gold. You're Pinheiro, that is your guy. He's like the guys. Put him in the Pro Bowl. He's the most valuable player.
Moody, would they have a winning record right now? I don't think so.
Pinheiro right now is the MVP.
No question.
As great as McCaffrey was last week, so far Pinheiro has put more wins on the scoreboard than McCaffrey has.
All right, let's do some prize picks. It's time. Let's get the prize picks on the board. Now that we have established that the Niners should win this game, let's go start with and pay attention, because this is going to be informing our final topic of the show. Okay. Mac Jones, 219.5 passing yards, more or less.
I say more.
Okay.
Heck, he was throwing for 311 yards a game until last Sunday.
And the Niners' run game may not be as effective against Houston as it was against Atlanta. We'll see. CJ Stroud, 199.5.
I'll say fewer. He doesn't have the weapons other than the tight end. How many balls can this kid catch at 9 or 10 yards a pop?
That's a good point. Especially without Nico Collins, going to be tough. Rushing yards, Christian McCaffrey, 68.5.
I say more.
Okay.
We're going downhill now. I get him
Yeah.
20 carries at 3 yards a pop. He's got 60 yards right there.
That's a good point. Nick Chubb, 31.5.
Oh, I think for the season he's averaging 41 yards a game.
Yeah.
And some games they run the ball 10 times in the whole first half.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's going to get enough carries. So I'll say fewer.
Okay. Let's go to receiving. Let's see. Receiving yards. Kittle, 54.5.
Oh, if I were calling the plays, Kittle would be pushing 100 every week. I'd find a way to give him 7 or 8 throws that would get him 8 or 9 yards a catch, and then he can run after that. I'll be brave. I'll say more.
I like it. I like the bravery. I wish we could find Tonjes on here, but we got Christian McCaffrey, the receiver, 42.5 receiving yards.
I'll say more. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I give him 3 passes. Like his catch and run ability, I could throw him an 8-yard ball, he gains 15. I throw him a 15-yard ball, he gains 23. So, yeah. And he's going to get more touches than anyone else.
Tom knows his picks. He's good with his prize picks. Pay attention. Download the app. Use promo code COHN, play $5, get 50 instantly in lineups. Remember to flex your plays and submit your lineup to win. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Prize Picks. Final topic of the day, NBA scandal. Chauncey Billups, a player, Terry Rozier, arrested by the FBI about gambling, which, makes you think about Pete Rose and stuff like that. And my question to you is, how easy would it be for play callers, players in the NFL to sort of get caught up in something like this?
Oh, yeah, I hate to say this. It is easier than one would think. I tell you what, especially if somebody has leverage on, let's say, a play caller, Joe Dokes. If he's got some garbage somewhere that creates a susceptibility and vulnerability to him, I tell you what, by play calling, by featuring players or calling certain types of plays in certain situations, yeah, you could influence the outcome of your offense. I could control how many snaps you get as a handoffs you get as a running back, how many passes are thrown to you as a wide receiver or a tight end, or even how many passes a running back like a McCaffrey would get in the game. I can look at the overs and the unders or the more or the fewer on all of your gambling apps that you have. Look at the odds and everything. Oh, yeah, it's easy to do.
Yeah.
The Raiders, okay, just to bring up a sore spot, they got this kid who's the first-round draft pick, a running back.
Mm-hmm.
Pete Carroll says he wants to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They go into the game last week, and I think 8 of the first 10 plays were passes, and then they had one run to this kid Genty, the running back, number 2. And think about this: if you're the coordinator and you're on the take, or you're working the gambling angle of it, giving Genty only 1 carry in the first quarter, hey, if I've got the under on him, I'm making money.
That's true, man. This is really Pandora's box for these leagues. They got to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen, because it calls into question the integrity of everything.
Well, nowadays, back in the old days, gambling was taboo. The NFL did not make money. Nowadays, they've got their hands open. The cash register is ringing. You look at your site and all these other promotion sites. You can sit in the game in the stands with a cell phone during the game, and fans are making bets. And the league is raking in money. Roger Goodell wants to generate revenues to $25 billion by 2027. Last year they were $13 billion. So he's, opened up, the league to anybody who's willing to come in, be it alcohol, gambling, whatever, booking sites. They're raking in all the revenue, but by the same token, They're creating an environment where they're more susceptible to corruption.
Something they might want to think about. Josh Wyatt says, can the Niners win this game if they don't break their interception drought this week? This is a defense you can't drive the length of the field on.
I tell you, the thing about the interception deal, playing zone, you give the receivers defensive backs a better chance to eyeball the receivers as well as the quarterback, get a better break on the ball. So if they're playing more zone this week rather than playing man-to-man with the 5 and 6 man pressures, they've got a better chance for interceptions because the defensive backs can see it better.
Makes sense. Barry, a baller, 18, been a member for 50 months. Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate it. Tom, thank you too. I think that's our show. I got to get down and see how Brock Purdy's toe feels. Great stuff, Tom. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope you have a good trip. Be safe, enjoy, and drop a few hints to Kyle about what he should be doing this Sunday, okay? Help him out. Get another game ball like you did a couple weeks ago.
That's right. He owes us a couple. I'll talk to him. Thanks, Tom. See you guys.